Well, it's 7:30 and I think we will begin. So good evening, everyone, on this very hot evening. I hope you're all hydrated somewhere, having ice creams, water, and a very warm welcome to you all, our siblings, joining us from across the connection and beyond. Welcome to our digital space tonight, a space where we intentionally cultivate to be supportive, safe, and completely non-judgmental. My name is Olive Rujidzo. I am one of the co-chairs for Methodist Women in Britain, and it is an absolute honor to be your host and anchor this evening. If you're new to us, tonight's webinar is part of our ongoing series, which is the Let's Talk About It series. In this series, we openly talk about any issues that don't get airplay within mainstream church. So we as Methodist Women in Britain are a movement of women that have committed ourselves to a specific mission to bring the light and grace of Christ into the corners of life and society that too often stay hidden and in the shadows. We're here to engage in real talk. So this is an open space, honest space, safe space. And we're going to talk about the issues that matter, even though sometimes they're complex. For some of you who have joined us previously, we have talked about menopause, we've talked about intimacy, we've talked about mental health, FGM, domestic abuse, and today I'm wearing my T-shirt on Thursdays in Black, our campaign on Thursdays in Black in commemoration of action against violence against women and girls. That's a small advert. You can get your T-shirts from MWeb. But I think there are several issues. So today we are talking about a topic that has found its way into all our newspapers and TV screens and conversations: immigration. So this is a topic that touches on the times that we are living in, a time that is defined by complex laws, shifting borders, and intense political debate. In the media, the migrant journey is frequently reduced to cold statistics, loud rhetoric, or political talking points. But as people of faith and as women committed to justice, we are compelled to look deeper. We must ask, what is the human reality behind the legal jargon? How can the church respond with both practical wisdom and Christ-centered compassion to those navigating life's most difficult transitions? Today, we aren't just looking at policy. We are looking at our neighbors. We are exploring faith, law, and frontiers. So to help us navigate, and we've always mentioned that while Methodist Women in Britain provides a platform, we don't ever lie to you and tell you we're experts in one particular subject. If anything, we may not even be experts in any subject. So that's why we befriend people, organizations that are specialists in particular topics. And today I would like to introduce you to our sibling. On my screen, she's on the top left and she will wave. Her name is Rumbidzai Vunzawabaya. So she is a UK-based immigration solicitor, the CEO and founder of Talia Group CIC, and a fiercely passionate advocate for migrants and vulnerable communities. I say fiercely because you will hear when she starts to speak that she'll be extremely passionate about what she's talking about. She has over 15 years of hands-on experience. She has walked alongside countless individuals, families, and organizations navigating the UK immigration law. Rumbidzai doesn't just look at the law through a legal lens, but she also looks through a holistic pastoral lens. She is also founder of Freedom Ministry International, where she mentors women and creates safe spaces for healing and empowerment. She is widely celebrated for her unique ability to break down incredibly complex legal issues into accessible, real-life understanding. So tonight, she's going to help us to look at law and reality, challenge common misconceptions, and explore how our local churches can offer holistic, informed support. Please join me in giving a warm digital welcome, whether it's a wave or a thumbs up, to our guest today, Rumbidzai Vunzawabaya. What we'll call her Rumbi today, because I think that'll be easier for all of us in case you need to ask. Rumbi, the floor is all yours. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Olive, Rurizo. Thank you so much for that warm welcome, and good evening, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. I'm just going to share my slides. I hope you can see them. They'll just help me to stay on track, because I may get too passionate. So it's good that I've got that. So I'm talking today about faith, law, and frontiers, from my own lived experience and also from the work that I do. So this is so this is just an introduction about me, and I think we've heard about that, about some of the work that I do. I work with migrants primarily in every aspect of work that I do. I'm a mother and a wife. I've got 3 children who are 28, 23 and 20, turning 21, 20 turning 21, 22 turning 23. And they were all born here. So they're all born here. I came from Zimbabwe in 1998 when I was 23 years old. And I've lived here for the last 28 years. I am a solicitor. I trained at the University of Zimbabwe, and then I changed my qualifications to become admitted in England and Wales as a solicitor. So I help thousands of people through Tulia, through Freedom Ministry, and I work every day with people from all over the world. I've written several books and continue to write more, writing about my journey, my experiences, the work that we do. There's so much to write about. So I've just started, and I'm hoping to write a few more books. The scripture that came to mind just as I was preparing for this, from a faith perspective and an intersection of faith and law around immigration, is what the Bible tells us, to love them as yourself, for you were foreigners in Egypt. The Bible talks about foreigners a lot, and there's many references to foreigners, to migrants, and Jesus himself was a refugee. His family fled to Egypt to escape persecution. And he knows what it's like to cross the border in fear. And it's something that's not alien. It's something that has been here. Migration has been here since time immemorial, in all different ways. People moving geographically. The Bible says that we should love our neighbor as ourselves. Matthew 25 says, I was a stranger and you welcomed me. And as an organization, as Tulia, our work is anchored on Matthew 25, about welcoming people, making them feel at home, showing hospitality to people who are strangers, people who have come here from different countries, people with different backgrounds, and making them feel at home. And as people of faith, we are called to respond to migration, to immigration, and to people who live at the periphery and the edge of society. And immigration is not just a legal issue, it's a human issue. it's a faith issue, it's a justice issue, it's also a political issue. And it's something that the Bible talks about, and it's very clear on. But it's also something that's talked about in policy. It's something that's talked about in the press. It's something that we often hear about in all different ways. But why do people move? Why do people come to the UK? And people come to the UK for many reasons. There are many reasons why people come to the UK. They come because some are fleeing war, there's persecution, there's violence, there's people who flee, like in Ukraine, people had to flee from their homes, from everything that they knew, to go around the world to safe countries. People are fleeing war from Sudan, from Iran. They flee war, persecution, domestic violence, danger. And some people come here to work. Some people come here to study. Some here come to join family. Some people come because of historical reasons, because of Commonwealth ties. And some people simply come here to for dignity, for opportunity, for a better future, because they may live in countries where there's very few prospects for them. The type of people that we deal with are people who come here for persecution as asylum seekers, people who come here to contribute in the NHS as doctors, physiotherapists, nurses, surgeons, in adult social care, people who come here as carers to work, IT, so many different ways that people come here to work and to contribute. And as I've said, family reunification, international students. We initially came here as international students. I came here to study along with my husband to further our education. And then we ended up working and contributing. Initially, my husband working as a teacher. Our children were born here. We settled working as in education. He was teaching maths and science. Then we set up a business, and ultimately, that's how we ended up settling and becoming British citizens. People come from Hong Kong because of colonial ties, the Caribbean, former former colonies of Britain, where there's a deep historical connection to the UK. And those countries, there are many of their citizens who also come here due to those ties. So there's many, many reasons why people come to the UK. People come here for aspiration and for dignity, to be able to work and to be able to support their families and to be able to do jobs that maybe some people may not want to do. So they come and do any work so that they may be able to send money back home and look after their families. I want to separate the facts from fiction. There's so many myths that we see in the press where there is information that is put out in the public domain and in the press, especially all different types of press. And there's politics, like people from the far right who have their own narrative that they put across about migrants, that migrants come to claim benefits and to live off the states, the government. Most migrants on work visas, for example, they have no recourse to public funds. They cannot access most benefits, and they pay their full taxes and national insurance from day one. Other migrants who come here for family reunification, like spouses and children, they have no recourse to public funds, and they pay towards the NHS. In order to make an application as a migrant to come and live in the UK, they have to pay for a visa application. It's almost £4,000 per person. And a large portion of that is a contribution to the NHS. That's £2,587 per person for 2.5 years. Some of these people don't access the NHS, but they do have to pay towards it. So the press rarely talk about that, about the billions of pounds that are paid in terms of visa application fees. The visa application fees are about 1,300 per person for people who are coming here to join their families for family reunification. The fees are a little bit less for people who work in the NHS due to campaigns to say if they're working in the NHS and healthcare, surely they shouldn't have to pay an immigration health surcharge. So most of the migrants who come don't come to claim benefits and live off the states. They come to work, to contribute. There may be others who come as refugees, and when they arrive in the UK before their claim has been processed, they're not allowed to work. And therefore, they are given accommodation and food because they're not permitted to work whilst their claim is still being processed. But once the claim has been processed and they're recognized as refugees, most refugees go on to work, go to school, further their education, improve their qualifications, learn English, integrate, and give back and work. So it is a myth that most migrants come to the UK to claim benefits. Most migrants come here and want to work and even look after their families back in their countries of origin and send back remittances and also invest and work in the UK. There's another myth that if you've lived here for years, you automatically have a right to stay. That's not true. You have to apply. You have to pay almost £3,000 per person. You have to meet strict criteria. You have to pass tests. There's a Life in the UK test. There is a test for English in the UK, and you pay thousands of fees. And so, in order to qualify to settle, you have to pay a lot of money. We received our settlement as a family in 2013, and up to that, we paid a total of £30,000 in immigration fees for us to have indefinite leave to remain. For us to eventually become British citizens, we had to pay a further £7,000 for a family of five, I think closer to 8,000. So in total, it's a good deposit for a house, almost £40,000 that we paid in immigration fees to the time that we got to settlement. But that figure has increased tremendously since then. So it costs a lot of money, and the money goes into the system to pay towards taxes, it's government, it's income for the government. So it's not automatic. And there's strict requirements to be met, tests to be taken, and fees to be paid. And that's something that we rarely see in the newspapers. Asylum seekers choose the UK for its generous welfare system. Most people, they flee for their lives, not for lifestyle. Asylum seekers receive £49.18 a week. They cannot work whilst they're waiting, and they face many years of uncertainty. They face years where they're dealing with the trauma from fleeing. They're separated often from their family. They are in a foreign country that is alien to them. And the welfare system is not the deciding factor. People flee because they are scared and they're fighting for their lives and they're fleeing for their lives. So often they don't even know that there is a generous welfare system. There are people, a few, who abuse the system, and that's true, but that's not everyone. Most of the people who are fleeing just leave with a bag of just the clothes on their back, and they leave everything that they know to find safety. And to find refuge. And I think the Ukrainian refugees are a prime example of that, because we were able to see the war in the news all the time. We would see bombs coming down on apartments and people having to run away and flee. And that is the case of most refugees. But it's just that not every war is documented so that we can see it and become aware of why people flee. Another myth is that migrants take British jobs. Migrants fill critical shortages in health, in care, in hospitality, in agriculture. And most of the migrant workers come here because there's a shortage. Social workers, they come to fill gaps where there are not enough British workers. And the preference will always be for British workers. And where an employer takes a migrant worker, they have to pay a tax to be able to pay them, to actually take them on. So it's very expensive to actually sponsor someone to come and work here. So the government has got a lot of systems in place where they are discouraging people from taking migrant workers. So they charge employers almost for five years, it comes up to almost £3,000 plus the fees for immigration. And so it costs more to have foreign workers than to have British workers. And most employers would just love to have British workers because they don't have to train them as much. They are aware of the culture, they nuances, they know how to relate to people who they're working with. So it's much easier. But there is a shortage and it's a crisis. So it's not that the migrants come and take the jobs, the migrants come and fill shortages in health, in care, and so many different sectors. UK immigration today. These are 4 types of routes that I have talked about. The skilled worker, where someone is sponsored and they're tied to the sponsor. Most care workers and nurses use this route. Loss of the job can mean loss of the visa, with just 60 days to find a new sponsor. We meet many people in this sector, and every Thursday we run a drop-in, a clinic, a free clinic where people are able to come in and get free legal advice, and they're able to get free legal advice, and then they're able to to give them options. So we see every Thursday, we see so many people who've come here as carers, lost their jobs, or their employers have had their licenses revoked. They've come with their children are writing GCSEs, they're in the middle of exams, and they're still trying to fit in and adjust, and at the same time hold down a job, deal with problems in work, facing so many challenges. Spouses, children, long-term residents. There is a route called the 20-year long residence, which allows people to form roots in the UK, and then they're able to regularize and make applications for them to be able to stay. For those who are fleeing persecution, those are refugees. They cannot work during the process. The average wait is over a year, and then they have asylum support of £49.18 a week. If they're refused, then they face refusal. Yeah, some of the figures for 130-month visa renewal in 2026, it costs £3,994 per person. So that is to extend the visa just for 2.5 years. And then they have to pay a further £3,994 in another 2.5 years, 30 months, so every time. At the moment, there's a 10-year minimum to indefinite leave to remain, which means permanent residence. So if anyone commits a crime, if their visa lapse in the 10 years, then they have to return to their country of origin. And the weekly asylum support rate is £49.18. And those are some of the figures. Now, from a Christian perspective, how can the church respond? How can the church respond? Pray with informed understanding, like you're doing today, having these conversations, having these talks where we pray and intercede grounded in the reality that people are experiencing. They, receiving the 60-day letters to say, if you lose your job, you have 60 days to find another job or to go back to your country. Those are some of the challenges that people are facing. £4,000 in fees, years of uncertainty. When we pray for migrants, we pray around those issues. Offer practical support, helping people to gather documents, helping people to write letters, things that are really simple for some people. Having a computer, having a phone, being able to access the internet, to have Wi-Fi. For many people, there's digital poverty that they're not able to access the digital support that they need. And most things are done online now. So applications are made online, the Home Office communicates online, everything is done online with apps. And some of the people cannot afford to have a phone or to have access to the Wi-Fi or the internet. So supporting people to give them access to technology is practical support, offering transport, offering letters from the church and pastors. These small acts can make the difference in an immigration case. Advocating and speaking out, challenging dehumanizing language, writing to MPs, and ensuring that the voices of migrants in the congregation are heard. And when their voices are heard, advocating and standing together. I loved how there was a demonstration in London where people were standing together to say that we don't want people who come to divide us. We stand together, and the people standing together were more than the people who were trying to divide us as society. Connecting people to qualified legal advice. Because if people get unregulated immigration advice, it can cause a lot of harm to them. So it's important to connect people to immigration advisors, creating safe spaces to speak. Many migrants carry invisible burdens. They have a fear of deportation. They're exploited at work. The church should be where these things can be named so that people are free to be able to speak about them and not silenced. Supporting people with fundraising so that they can apply for their visas, support funds for migrants. Those are practical ways that the church can respond. Yeah, I think I've finished before time. This is some of the work that we do. So we have retreats, and at these retreats we have some of the migrants who we meet through our work, who are facing domestic violence, who are facing challenges in their home. They come and have a place where they can feel free, talk about Jesus, talk about the challenges that they're having, pray, have nice food, play in the gardens because they're beautiful gardens, and just have a really restful time and just enjoy just some time away from all the challenges that they face, going, in terms of work, legal cases, going to court, all of these different challenges. Today, I'll finish up with a story of one of the people that I've been supporting, a lady who is a care assistant, and she had challenges with her children in terms of discipline. So she grew up in a different country, in a different environment, with different ways of raising children. So she ended up getting into a bit of trouble with social services. They took the children, and they also arrested her because she had lashed out at one of the children, and so it wasn't good. But we were able to provide her with support, to provide the children as well. They had support from social services, but we were able to advocate for her, explain the challenges, the difficulty, the different background that she comes from, where some things are acceptable and some things here are not acceptable. So to be able to speak for her, we connected her with a social worker who was able to really support her and stand for her and explain to the courts, explain to the social workers the differences in culture, the challenges and the pressure that she was experiencing. and it was like living in a pressure cooker with so many different challenges, but being able to get the right support all around. So we support with legal, we found a criminal solicitor, found a social worker, all people who have an understanding of the different culture, and we're able to support her. And we've just heard today that the children are coming back, and it's been such a difficult time. She's been able now to get support from social services, get support to be able to parent well and parent better in light of all of the challenges that she's having. So it's some of the work that we do where women like this who have their children taken away, which is an alien concept, because in some countries the government will not come and take your children, where it's not outright abuse, but where you have different ways of raising children. There's so many different things that can happen where there is an understanding of the culture. And I'm not saying that it's good for parents to abuse children, but there may be ways that they discipline them which are different. And so being able to advocate for people like that, it brings us a lot of joy to be able to see reunion, but also to be able to then help those people to parent better, to understand the impact that maybe shouting will have, and being very strict will have on the children. It's important for people to learn different ways. So instead of punishing and taking away everything, we try and support them as well so that they can work with all the different organizations like social services, the police, and the family courts to provide safe homes. And sometimes, like at our retreat, those are the type of moms who come so that they can just have some time just to rest, some time to reflect, some time to heal, because people suffer from trauma in the migration. There's migration trauma, just the mere fact of leaving your home and coming to a new country. That is something that is traumatic for many people. So we provide those spaces for people to be able to talk about it, to talk about the loss, to talk about the distance from their family members, to be able to talk about how it feels not to be able to attend funerals or to look after your parents when they're elderly because you're waiting for a decision. So these spaces provide spaces for people to be able to talk, to cry, and to just share with other people who understand. Some of the other work that we do is work with victims of domestic violence who who have come to get married under the family visas. So they come and they get married. You meet someone online, you get married, and then when they come here, they realize that the person is not everything that they said they were. And we have many victims of domestic violence who come in and they experience isolation and abuse. We support them to get um, access to public funds so that they can flee and go to domestic violence refuge. And then we apply for indefinite leave to remain for them, and they're able then to settle with their children. And one of the cases that always comes to mind is of a young lady who was married and faced horrendous abuse. We were able to rescue her, put her in accommodation, support her, and she is a chemical engineer. She had been in her country of origin, but we're able to support her and encourage her. She was able to get back into work. She now works as an engineer. She runs her own business. She's really settled well. She's buying a house. And I was so excited to just see her going on holiday, and she seems really happy. And she volunteers at Freedom, but we've been able to see her journey so that she can help other women in similar situations as well. So I love the work that we do, and I love the fact that we can empower people, educate them, and provide them with valuable advice that they need and representation at very critical moments in their life. And that makes all the difference between someone becoming homeless and somebody being able to be stable, to work, to contribute, to start a business, to employ other people. So the work that we do is all about empowering people, educating them, and helping them to have a better start in a new country. Yeah, so I think I'm open for any questions. I may have finished a little bit earlier. I'm 6 minutes early. So yeah, I'm open to any questions. Thank you so much. I'll pass over back to our anchor and host. Thank you.
I don't know if you'll receive me. My connection here is very weak. I'm not sure what it is. It might be the sunshine. But thank you very much, Rumbi, for giving us that insight. I know normally an hour is not enough for this kind of discussion or these topics or information. Our hope is that in starting these discussions, we're inspiring you to want to know more on what it is that actually happens behind those legal codes, the legal numbers. One of the things I think I will be able to share within this forum safely is that I too went through a very long process, immigration process. And for a very long time, my identity was a reference number or a prisoner number. On one of my documents, it actually says a prisoner number. I have never been arrested, but because of that process, I then attained what a number that identified me, which gave me a prisoner number. Now, imagine what that does for someone's dignity. You've come in, you're qualified, you're eager to learn, you're eager to work, and the only thing that is missing is that permission to do that. And I think those are the discussions that we are talking about. We do realize that on this platform, there may be people with different views, differences of opinion. And those are the things that we want to open up now and discuss. Rumbi has given us a little more time to discuss than usual. Thank you very much, Rumbi. In our speaking, and we'll open the floor now for any questions, any comments, whether directed to everyone else or directed to Rumbi and the organization she leads and the work that she does. So please feel free to either show by waving your hand, if you're like me who doesn't know how to use the electronic hand, or if you can use your electronic hand, or you can type in your question and we'll be able to share it amongst ourselves. If by any chance you have any comments or are asking questions and you do not want them to be shared because this webinar is cast onto our website, please let us know and we'll snip off that part of the conversation and it won't be publicized. So feel free to talk about anything. The floor is open. While we're waiting, I think for people to decide, okay, we've got Kelly has got her hand up.
Hi, sorry. I was just a question for Rumbi, really. Is there so I work with refugees and asylum seekers sort of day to day. And in Lincolnshire there aren't any like qualified immigration advisors. So when we search on the gov.uk website, so I was wondering if there was any like geographical limits to the support that you provide, or if you can provide it to anybody.
Thank you for the question. We provide advice online, virtual advice to people anywhere in the country. But our free advice, which is funded, is only for people in Coventry and Warwickshire, and we don't have a legal aid contract. So we wouldn't be able to support refugees in Lincolnshire. There would have to be, and that's one of the most difficult. That's one of the challenges the government made in 2013. Significant cuts to legal aid in terms of how much providers are paid, but also the number of providers decreased because companies could not justify they couldn't exist. They wouldn't be able to pay their staff wages on the legal aid rates that the government has implemented in a bid to discourage people and to remove access. So it's intentional and it works. So that's the intention, to have as fewer providers, especially for asylum seekers who need legal aid. There are many private providers, but for legal aid, it's a real struggle all over the country, not just perhaps in Lincolnshire, but all over the country. Or if you do get a provider, they don't have capacity because of the shortages in in just the funding and the ability to do that work. So there's limited budget. So I can definitely understand and appreciate the challenges that you have in referring people to advisors.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Waiting for anyone else who'd like to put their hand up. I have one question that I wanted to ask Rumbi. For a local church that wants to become a safer and more welcoming space for migrants, but doesn't know where to start legally or practically, what is the very first step you recommend?
For a local church that wants to help, perhaps providing even like spaces for people to be able to come in and to be befriended, to have people who befriend them, who listen to them, and perhaps just provide that that practical support in terms of even providing things like clothes, like phones. That's something that I find that people, they always lack certain things, but in the area that the local church will be in, it's perhaps important to first find out what the needs of refugees are, even providing support in the hotels. Living in the hotels, we see it on the press a lot. And it makes it seem as if it's a nice hotel, like staying in a 5-star hotel. We've had families staying in the hotels that we support, and you can have a family of 5 living in one room, and not having a place to cook. So even if they've got babies, they're not able to give the babies food. They have to eat in the dining room, so they can't heat up basic things like, making porridge for children. So perhaps finding out the practical needs of those around in that area, and asking them, like asking people, what is it that you would need? What will be helpful for you? And to be able perhaps to meet some of those needs. But I think hearing what people say and what they need, rather than giving what we think they may need, I found that to be really useful, because we may feel that if I do this, that will help them, but it may not be what they need right now. So if there are migrants around, listening to them, listening initially, having those conversations and finding out what their particular needs in that area are. And depending on the different types of people, for example, I'll give an example of our legal drop-in that we do. We initially thought we'd do a drop-in and give people food, but the groups that come in are mostly carers on the health and care visa. So what they want is jobs. They don't need food. They said, we only come here to work. So we need you to help us to find jobs. So we help then to write the CVs, to prepare for interviews, to search for jobs, to look for jobs, and then to try and match them for jobs, because that's what they need. They said, we don't need food, we don't need clothes, we don't need anything else. What we just want to do is find work. And how do we find that work? And switch from exploitative situations. So it's very important perhaps to ask and find out what the needs are, and then see how those needs can be met. And doing that process of just speaking to people and finding out what they need, it humanizes them, it gives them dignity, and it gives them a voice. So that we're not coming in as saviors, but we're coming in to say we are siblings, we're friends, we are, what is it that we can do to make your life a little bit easier?
Okay. Any other questions? I've got a whole list here, so I could ask mine.
It's not so much a question, but I think it just relates to the last question. I join a community group in Louth, that are doing exactly that. They've opened a space, I think it's an hour and a half once a week for anyone to go along. And they've done just that. They've been befriending people. Some of the gentlemen have joined local sports teams. They literally just go, they have a few biscuits, tea and coffee. So it is something that, like you said, Rumby, there's just as simple as just being there. And I think it's not to be scared of just thinking you don't have anything to offer, because a listening ear is more than enough sometimes.
Yeah.
So
Thank you, Kelly. I think one of the
Kelly,
things that Rumbi mentioned. So go ahead, Kirsty. Go ahead, Kirsty. Go ahead.
so Kelly, is yours the Louth Sanctuary Group? Because our North Lincolnshire Sanctuary Group grew out of the Louth Sanctuary Group, and you all do so much good work. And I'm a member of North Lincolnshire Sanctuary Group, and we used to be combined, didn't we? And we split. So it's good to meet you. My question was, if the asylum seekers are having to raise so many thousands of pounds, how are they doing it? Because the asylum seekers who come to Scunthorpe can be thrown into a flat. We find them accidentally, two men in a flat with not a single piece of toilet paper between them, no cash whatsoever, and that's what the government are doing. So how are the asylum seekers managing to get so much money to pay for visas? Or is that refugees?
So there are different types of migrants. So there are so many different categories. So asylum seekers are one group, and they don't have to pay for visas, so their visas are free. So that's one group. But then you've got skilled workers; they have to pay, but less. Then you've got others who are parents of British children, or people who've lived here for 20 years, or people who so they're all different groups of people, and there's different fees, they're different visa categories. So it's very complex. But when the press talks about migrants, they lump everyone. It's like they say that everyone's come in on the small boats, or everyone is in one group. So the asylum seekers are one big group, but there's other big groups as well. Yeah.
I think one thing to note on costs as well is that even though asylum seekers or people seeking asylum do not have a cost towards the government, they need advice. Because a lot of the times, if you don't have a legal background, you need to understand how the system works. You need to understand what to provide and at which point, what kind of evidence is required. And you end up at Rumbi's desk. And obviously, like Rumbi says, she has an office to run. She has staff to pay, and therefore there's going to be a bill. I will always go back to my case, and I was supported, very well supported within my circuit. I can openly say I paid close to, within the period, close to 25 to 30,000 in legal fees over that period. And this all came from donations within my circuit and my district, because I was not allowed to work. So I think those are some of the things that, in looking at people, in not giving someone money, but identifying providers, legal service providers, and paying legal providers, possibly retainers, and at point of request for legal fees. So I think that's another point.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? I think the one thing that Ruby highlighted as well where there's an intersection of all these issues that we talk about, was the abuse that occurs where people have come in, they're mid-application, or they are dependent on someone else's visa, and they end up being abused by the visa holder. And a lot of the times I think people are told that if you don't do this for me, I will send you back because you're on my visa. And I think we've heard that a lot. So that there's then an intersection of abuse, of mental health, instability. There is even that spiritual well-being where a person starts to feel worthless, and sometimes doesn't go into faith centers because they don't feel adequate. That for me, I think is a question I would ask. How can we, and maybe not directed to you, Rumbi, maybe something that we can discuss, how can we navigate this? Because there's long-term anxiety, and you'll find that some people actually get treated for PTSD after long periods like this, waiting periods. How can we navigate this, and how can we circumvent this? I mean, this is open to anyone. I think we can discuss that. How can we, if there are people who are within the field who are, or who have interfaced with people who are experiencing this, what is it that you have done that maybe some of us can do within our churches, our communities, that will help? I can see several faces that look like they may have answers, but I think people are not.
I think maybe one bit would find out what's available already in your area as a church, because with the Sanctuary organisation, which I know not every area particularly has a group probably, but we run a women's group every week from people from all over the world to like cook together and sew. And then we have a men's group, just places open where they can get to know each other and talk and build relationships and just support each other.
Thank you, Kirsty. Did I see a hand from someone? Does any of you know about the towns or cities of sanctuary? Wave your hand if you've heard about the towns and cities of sanctuary.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, I see 3 people. I think this is something that was started years ago. I don't have the actual date, but I've got the booklet. We have interacted with one of the founders, Reverend Indigit, who's a past president of the Methodist Conference. And he's spoken very openly about creating places of sanctuary, or towns or cities of sanctuary, which are places or towns or communities or churches that are opening themselves up. And I think there's a certain criteria you go through, or you have a discussion for you to become or be accredited as a city or a place of sanctuary. I think those are some of the things that we could possibly start to look at in our areas. If you're interested in that, I think you can email us at our communications email address. For me is she'll wave. She's on the screen. She's our communications officer. If you could please, there she is. If you could please just post the email address. And if you want to know more about creating places of sanctuary, coming together, we have visited the reporting center in Loughborough, and we had a team from Loughborough City of Sanctuary who came in and were talking about the hotels that are existing within Loughborough. The area I live in does not have any hotels, but we then came together as a community within the place I live in, and we put together whatever packs that were needed within that area. So it doesn't have to be something that's happening within your particular area, but you don't know what's happening in the next town. So creating a group of people that have the same mindset, that can advocate, that can collect, that can speak on behalf of people also helps. Sometimes it's not at your doorstep, but as long as you believe that it's happening, it is happening somewhere near you. And that would really help. Any more questions, comments? Well, thank you very much, ladies. As we draw our time to a close, siblings, as we draw our time to a close, I want to extend our deepest and most heartfelt gratitude to Rumbi. Thank you for sharing your expertise, your spirit, and your time with women in Britain tonight. You have equipped us with the insight needed to understand, love, and serve our neighbors more effectively. And thank you to every single one of you who logged in tonight. Remember, the goal of the series is to take what we have learned in this digital space and carry it out into our communities, our pews, our neighborhoods, our homes, and leave us here committed to ensuring that the future of the church is a place where every single person is seen, is heard, and is welcomed with the radical boundary and breaking love of Christ. Please keep looking out for our MWIB notices, our Methodist Women in Britain notices. Be sure to join us again in June, on 25 June 2026. And we will be streaming this time around from the Methodist Conference in Telford. And we will be speaking about gender and sexual identity. So we'll be eager to see you and celebrate how every beautiful part of God's creation is fearfully and wonderfully made. Rumbi, thank you very much. I can't see her on the screen anymore. She could have had technical issues, but I will pass on, I'm sure, from all of us. We're grateful for people like her who can assist, who can help us. I think for those who are in Lincolnshire, there's several people I know who are willing, several solicitors who are willing to travel or who are happy for people to travel to them. I know for a time, my solicitor was not based in my town. So I think it's also looking at those who are registered and see whether they'll accept people who will travel. So I think things like that, when we interact and we ask these questions, we're able to assist each other. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you so much. We will see you again in June. Go in peace, stand in courage, and may God bless you all. Good night.